When was the last time a dating app actually worked for you? Not a match, not a conversation that went somewhere for a week before disappearing. Actually worked, led to something real, something that made you think, okay, maybe this is worth it. Most people go quiet when they hear that question, and there's a reason for that. Dating apps aren't failing because they connect the wrong people. They're failing because they connect too many people. And that difference is everything. When you open Tinder or Bumble or any other app, you're not entering a romantic experience. You're entering a marketplace. And in any marketplace, the more supply there is, the harder the decision becomes. That's not a feeling. That's basic economics applied to human connection. If you're a man, you already know the frustration. You swipe right on what feels like half the app. You get a handful of matches, if you're lucky, and for every match that actually responds, 3 go silent within 2 messages. So you start questioning yourself, your photos, your bio, your opening line. Was it something you said? Was it something you didn't say? The app slowly chips away at your confidence while keeping you just hopeful enough to keep swiping. And that hope is not an accident. That hope is a design choice. If you're a woman, the experience looks completely different from the outside. Every right swipe is a match within seconds. Hundreds of messages are waiting. It looks like power. It feels like options. But then you open that inbox, and what you find is overwhelming, exhausting, and mostly disappointing. So you filter and filter harder, and the standard keeps rising because it has to, because the volume never stops. And somewhere in all that filtering, you stop looking for someone good, you start waiting for someone perfect. The problem is, perfection doesn't exist, and the longer you wait for it, the harder it becomes to recognize something real when it's actually standing in front of you. Here's the part nobody talks about. When the app asks you what you're looking for, what do you actually say? Think about your honest answer, not what you told your last match, not what sounds good on a profile, what you actually want from another human being. Most people don't know. They say things they've heard from friends. They say things they think the other person wants to hear. They perform a version of themselves. That's more attractive than accurate. And so from the very first message, before you've even met, before you've even seen each other's faces clearly, both people are already performing for an audience of one. And after a few dates, even good ones, even ones where something real started to form, there's always that voice. Maybe there's someone better I haven't met yet. Maybe I should just be sure first. Just one more swipe, just one more week. So you keep making sure, and the weeks turn into months, and you stay alone. This isn't just an opinion. This is data. In 2012, Match Group launched Tinder. Within 5 years, it had fundamentally changed how human beings meet each other across the entire planet. Within 10 years, it had built an industry worth over $9 billion annually. An industry built entirely on the premise that you haven't found the right person yet. The numbers today are staggering. Tinder alone has over 75 million monthly active users across more than 190 countries. Bumble has surpassed 40 million. Hinge, which markets itself as designed to be deleted, has reached over 23 million users and is growing faster than any other platform in the category. Match Group, the company that owns Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, and several others, reported revenues of over $3.1 billion in 2023 alone. But during that exact same period, marriage rates in the United States hit their lowest point since 1900. In Europe, the average age of first marriage rose by more than 4 years in just 2 decades. In Japan and South Korea, government task forces now formally track voluntary lifelong singlehood as a national demographic crisis, threatening economic stability. The question worth asking is not whether these two things are related. The question is, how? In 2023, a study published in PNAS examined over 3,000 regular dating app users across multiple countries. The findings were difficult to ignore. 45% reported feeling worse about themselves after consistent app use. Only 28% reached a relationship that lasted more than 6 months, and fewer than 7% reached marriage. For a product that exists specifically to help people find lasting relationships, those are extraordinary numbers. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, who wrote The Paradox of Choice, described the underlying mechanism with precision. More choices don't just make decisions harder. They make people feel guilty. about whatever decision they make, because there's always the persistent belief that something better existed somewhere in the options they didn't choose. Dating apps didn't invent that feeling, they industrialized it. In 2022, Hinge released an internal statistic that revealed more than the company probably intended. 90% of users who delete the app return to it within 6 months. Even the people who decide to leave come back, because the hope never fully goes away. Think about what that means for a moment. The most successful outcome for a dating app user, finding a lasting relationship and deleting the app, is also the worst possible outcome for the company's revenue. A user who finds love is a user they lose. A user who almost finds love, who gets close enough to keep believing but never quite arrives, is a user who keeps paying. Which one do you think the product is optimized for? So what do you actually do with all of this? The answer isn't to delete the apps. The apps are a tool. And like any tool, the problem is never the tool itself. It's how you use it. And more importantly, the mindset you bring to it. Before you open any dating app again, do one thing first. Write down exactly what you're looking for. Not a list of physical traits, not a vague feeling you can't quite describe. Specific values, specific deal breakers, specific things that actually matter, to how you want to live your life. Are you looking for someone who wants children or someone who doesn't? Someone who shares your faith, your politics, your lifestyle, someone ambitious or someone content, someone who wants to travel or someone who wants to stay close to home? These aren't small questions. These are the questions that end relationships 2 years in, sometimes 5 years in, when you finally realize you never asked them at the beginning. Because you were too busy being charming, know your answers, and before you swipe once, write them down, look at them, and when you match with someone, be honest about them. Not on the first message, not in an overwhelming way, but early. Because the person who runs away from your honesty in the first week just saved you 6 months of your life. Stop performing. The version of you that's slightly more interesting, slightly more attractive, slightly more together than you actually are right now, that version can't sustain a real relationship. And a relationship built on that version will eventually collapse under the weight of who you actually are. Show up as you actually are. Be clear about what you actually want. And then let the process do what it's supposed to do, which is a filter. Not filter you down to one perfect person. Filter out everyone who isn't right until you're left with someone who chose the real version of you on purpose. That person exists, but you won't find them. While you're still auditioning for a role you're not sure you even want. Wish you all the best of luck to find your real life partner.